So I have a couple tweets here that I'm going to read, and they kind of lead into each other. One of them is a named tweet. This is a named tweet. It is called Karma Clock. There's a phrase that goes something like this: an eye for an eye, and soon we're out of eyes. An eye for an eye, and each participant still has one eye. Actions have consequences. How moral is it for an action to have an equal and opposite reaction? Tick tock. The karma clock. So that's just a general sort of moral question. When people talk about eye for an eye, and talk about like sort of setting things right. Like if you took X from me, I get to take X from you. The same one. It's like a like for like. Some people have this view of morality and ethics in which they think it's more helpful to have this sort of eye for an eye. And I actually wanted to ask that question. And there wasn't too much, there was a couple of comments on that, but I'm really sharing Karma Clock, which is a standalone tweet for another tweet that I have here that I'm going to grab right now, that is about a similar topic, a little bit more heated, on the topic of reparations and what's going on right now with the racial clash in the United States. However big or small that it might actually be, I don't know what it is. But you can help me with that, with your comments below. Start the dialogue. Get it going. So here is the next tweet talking about the eye for the eye. Reparations for every cultural and or economic marginalization since the dawn of civilization would end the world. So questions remain. How far do you want to go back? How wide is your context? Do you believe in an eye thousands of years ago for an eye today? Give us numbers. So when you talk to people, notably on the left, we'll say it's notably on the left, it's more, they're the ones that have the modern religion more so of social justice, in which they sort of put people into groups, the identity politics religion. And they also talk about these things like privilege. We have white privilege, black privilege, all these different privileges. And of course they say, we're not racist. We're dividing people up into groups by their race. But we're not racist. We're acting on people based on their group, their race, but we're not racist. That's fine. We have this thing called altruistic racism. You can watch my video, Generating Racism, for more information on that. They have systemic racism. Systemic racism. So, I say here, reparations for every cultural and or economic marginalization since the dawn of civilization would end the world. So questions remain. So, yes, people act like we're supposed to retcon the past, or kind of go back and look at these transactions that happen. May they be wars or all this stuff that happened with literally millions of moving parts. People, millions of people were involved in the slave trade for the past 2,000 years. I'm not an expert. Seek subject matter experts and leave me some great information on slaves, white slaves, black slaves. Leave me comments on slavery down below. But we have all these things that happen. The way the Middle East handled it, slavery, and things where there was marginalization, where people were treated more like cattle than human beings. Happened all throughout civilization, still happens today in Africa. Slavery is not over. Slavery is still happening in places like Africa. So it's not like we haven't evolved all the way. past that. But reparations for everything would undo, it would end the world. Because so much has happened. If you go back and relitigate the past, try to rewrite history, try to 1619 project everything, just sort of like, well, we have a new frame for reality. We have a new frame for what happened. We have some new terms now. We learned about critical race theory, and now we're going to go and apply that filter from the future to the past. Not the relative future. We'll take it from 1989 and put it into 1919. And we'll do that and do this and do that. That's fine. But here's the thing. I get it in the past 100, 200 years. Because media in the past century or two has rapidly and massively evolved. So the messaging is much different. We know so much more about our environment, about our world. And I understand why people have thought that like these are the worst times ever. The world has never been better. The world has never been better. But the fact of the matter is, you get so much information, you get so many images into your head. Give us your mind, like I said earlier in the video. The media wants you to give them your mind, and so you hand it over. We just hand it over. Here you go. Just keep on filtering all this negative imagery about slavery, and just remind me of the past 200 years again and again and again, so I can't get ahead. Nobody can get past it. Nobody can get past it. So I say here, how far do you want to go back? Are we going to go back just 100 years, 200? Or do you want to keep on going back further? Do you want to go back to 300 years, 500, 1,000, a whole millennium back? And sort of relitigate every reason why some family got where they were. Get down to the minutia, get down to the micro, and just try to reformat the societal push and the societal pull for everything that happened for thousands of years. How far do you want to go back to make sure that we undo those transactions? May they be flesh and blood, if people died, if people were sold, or just monetary. If it was just monetary transaction, did somebody get a bad deal? Did a town force this person out? How many people go through the millions and billions of connections between people and just relitigate, figure it out. Oh wait, we'll make it a lot easier. We'll make it a lot easier. How about we just put people into groups, right? We'll do it by race. I know it's an immutable characteristic, but we'll do it by race. We'll do it by sex. We'll do it by gender, which some would argue is not immutable or mutable. It's not mutable, depending on what's going on. You can probably infer what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, we can go ahead and just put people into groups. We'll label them, we'll divide them up, and we'll figure out, well, as a group, we can't do it on the individual. That's too much work. We can't do it on individual basis. That is too hard. We are too lazy to do that. We need simplification. So what we're going to do is move people into groups. If you're white, you're in that group. If you're Hispanic, you're in this group. If you're Asian, I know people don't like that term sometimes. Asian. Say if you're East Asian. Sure. Jewish, we'll just put them all into groups. Black, we'll do all these different groups. And then we'll decide what culture, how we're going to reformat society based on our sort of subjective one angle on the past. Hell, we'll use some newer ideologies and linguistic frames to make it even easier. But we're going to go by group, and we'll give reparations to people, and we'll undo this and that. We don't need to get into the minutia. We don't need to get into the nitty-gritty details. We just need to make it right. And it has to feel good. We have to make it feel good, like we're doing something good. So let's divide people up into groups and start pitting them against each other. This is identity politics. How wide is your context? Again, we don't want it. If you're one of these people that's going around with the systemic this and the systemic that, they want their context is as wide as it needs to be to accomplish what they're doing. That's what it is. They're not doing this in a fair way. They're just they're coming up with these generalizations. Now I know they're trying to help people in many ways. I don't want to lose that in the conversation or the rant. But how wide is that context? How far do you want to go back? And do you believe in an I thousands of years ago for an I today? Like, do you want to go back and say, well, maybe if the pharaohs of Egypt hadn't enslaved certain people to build the pyramids, if they weren't built by aliens, that is. What if we go back and check out the records and figure out, well, hey, this person was marginalized way 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 5,000 years, whenever it might be. We can go back as far as you want. Can we go back and say, maybe we can cut them a check? Let's cut them a check. Where's the money come from? Who are they taking the money from? I don't know. I just want to help people, and I'm virtue signaling, and I don't know anything about math or science or history. I just want to help people, and that's it. And if I can't help people, then I don't want to vote. I don't want to do anything, because it's more important that I look and feel like I'm a good person than and things making any fucking sense. Give us numbers. Give us numbers. Don't just make broad assumptions. Put people into groups, generalize by group, and say, this has to be done, that has to be done, change has to happen, action has to take place, when you don't actually have full context. I know it feels good. I know it feels good. I like to feel good too. But you also have to think a little bit. You gotta think. Realize that it's a lot more complex. There's a lot more precedent. There's precedent. I know you want to heal the wound. You'll throw whatever you can at this thing to fix it. I respect that. I have to say, the reparation people, it opens a can of worms. It opens a can of worms that I don't know where it ends. If someone gets reparations for something in the 20th, I think we can probably go back to the 20th century. But again, I want to help people as much as anybody, but I do get sort of tired, a little bit exhausted and winded when people, they put their heart before their head. You know what I mean? They put their heart before their head. They want to help so badly that they're willing to set aside the consequences of these major actions to do so. So I don't want to come off as a bastard or anything about this, but it does frustrate me sometimes, because I know that their heart's in the right place. Like, I know it. But I think it's better. I have a video out, Irreparable Reparations, featuring Democrats. Irreparable Reparations on BitChute and YouTube, where I talk about how, it would be nice to cut a check for some people that have been historically marginalized, if we're going to break people up into groups. Okay, the idea is good, but the method, I think, is not right. I think we should be focusing on, are you ready? Here's the word you're going to hear a lot about this topic: education, opportunity. We need to make it so that we can't fix the past. The past happened. The past is gone. We can learn from the past. We can't fix it. It's gone. It's history. What we can do, what we can fix, is the future. And that involves setting things up that allow people that don't have the advantages, that don't have the privileges of other people. Doesn't matter who they are. This is completely anybody. No skin tone, no sex or gender, no religion, color, or creed. Hobbies, interests, professions, degrees, credentials. Doesn't matter who you are, what your label is. I consider myself an artist. Doesn't matter who you are. I think everybody deserves access to education and opportunity, equal opportunity. And if some people have a natural disadvantage that is going to hold them down forever, yeah, give them a leg up. But, cutting them a check, going back and trying to relitigate the past, it's backwards thinking to me. It's backwards thinking, so figured I'd share that.